Hello, everybody. My name is Gary Gomes. I'd like to talk to you about astrology in particular and Vedic astrology. I'm a practicing astrologer for 30 plus years now. I was the president of the Council of Vedic Astrology and have um, also a Reiki Master, also a doctorate in education, also a musician of sorts, and also a writer of sorts. So I think one of the things that I'd like to share with you is it's a Sunday morning, fairly early, around 8, uh, just a little bit after 9 o'clock. And one thing that sprung to mind is um, I'm going to talk a little bit. The message for today is remedies. So a lot of people are stuck in charts. A lot of people are stuck in chart patterns, and are stuck in situations they don't like, and they can't see any way out of it, really. And one of the most powerful traditions in India, at least from what I've seen, is what are called upayas, or remedial measures. Now, keep something in mind. Indian astrology is built around a tradition called Shankya. Shankya is essentially, it's a really interesting system of belief. Essentially, there are 6 basic viewpoints or philosophies in India. I won't go into all of them, but these are basic philosophies. And Shankya is really about the descent of spirit into matter. So Indian thought believes heavily in reincarnation. You really don't need to believe in reincarnation to practice astrology, but it helps a lot. And essentially, what you're looking at in your chart or in your daily life is a manifestation of the karmic path that you've perhaps pursued in a previous lifetime, and you come to this life to fulfill these ambitions or these goals. And so a lot of people out there will be saying, well, I didn't want to be in this situation. I didn't, how the hell could I have consciously wanted to be in this situation? And the thing is, you consciously don't want to be in this situation. However, think of it perhaps as a test for school. So let's say if you prepare for the test and you understand the materials, that's you're probably going to do pretty well in the test, right? Probably get an A or a B at the worst. If you don't understand and you don't study, then you might, through some luck, you might get a good grade, but chances are you won't. So this is essentially the amount of effort or energy you put into different directions in previous lifetimes, maybe the areas that you've not put into certain activities, and you ended up in a situation where you either let your drives get the better of you, and by that I mean either your material drives or your drives towards not taking control of your life, or your drives towards disciplining yourself, or whatever things. And this isn't or else maybe your drives to be with somebody who really just turns you on incredibly. So essentially it's not. So I'm not criticizing anybody for what they're doing. This is part of who you are. This is what makes you beautiful and who you are. But it also can cause pain. And pain is an illusion. Time is essentially an illusion. One of the precepts of basic Indian thought is essentially we're reincarnating to try to learn some kind of higher knowledge, and when that higher knowledge is learned, we'll leave permanently. We won't come back again. So it's and we'll go on to some other adventure, or reunify with Shiva or Vishnu or some other, or the universe, whatever you want to call it, and we'll be happy forever. But basically, there is some kind of a conclusion to all this, to all of these problems. But one of the issues that people often run into is that they start getting obsessed with either their desires or the lack of what they have. And they neglect to, number one, try to be happy with what they have, which is essentially foundational towards improving your situation. Because if you can't be happy with what you have, and you're looking at that next fulfillment as will bring you happiness, chances are you won't be happy with that either. You'll want more. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. We're all driven to succeed. We're all driven to do better. That's not a flaw. But contentment is really the key. Contentment with what you have, working with what you have, is sort of like a foundational asset, because if you don't have something, then you can't work with it, right? You can't really so let's say I want to build a house, but I don't have enough money for lumber. I can't build a house. However, if I get a job and I'm happy with where I'm living right now, and I'm content, and I have that goal in mind, I'm going to put my energies towards the goal of saving money, acquiring lumber, hiring a contractor, building a house. So you can be dissatisfied, but also happy, if that makes sense. One of the ideas in the astrological tradition in India is that you can make peace. So let's say if you have a really bad planetary placement, or a planetary placement, or you seem locked in a cycle for 7 years, which is or you're locked in, or you seem to have no luck. One of the provisions in Indian astrology is you can actually pray for help, or ask for help, or or take actions which will actually improve your situation. Now, I think the mistake a lot of people make when they're viewing these things is they're viewing these things as essentially cures. They're not cures per se. They're crutches. They're intended so a person who's in rehab for a physical injury can't walk normally right away, can't use their arm normally right away. They need some kind of a support or some kind of therapy. So, but they have to also, in addition to buying the cane, they also have to exercise. So whenever you get this kind of a remedial measure, like let's say you do a mantra to make peace with a certain energy in your life, you will also need to change your external actions. So it's a twofold process. Number one, you can ask for assistance, which will give you the inner resources, which will essentially change your mind. And as you change your mind, you change your life. And as you change your life, you can build upon that. That will eventually lead to the fulfillment of goals and ambitions And ultimately, there's a spiritual outcome, and that you won't feel the need to come back again and experience these things you haven't experienced and felt cheated because you haven't experienced. And you'll be happy, and you'll be liberated. Now, again, that's beyond most people's interests. I'm not saying that that's um, people's number one priority is to be liberated from this world. It's really um, a long-term goal, um, and people who are really driven to it usually have lives of renunciation or lives of, um, of intense dedication to it, and they'll feel that energy, at certain points in their lives when certain planets trigger. But there is also merit towards taking away pain, so essentially, because I think one of the issues that I've always lived by is if you're in a lot of pain, you start focusing on what's causing the pain. So it could be your actions. So maybe you drink too much, or you get into arguments all the time, or there's some other, or you make bad money decisions. You spend your paycheck before it's even earned. Um, I'm not, or you have a spate of bad luck. Everybody has bad luck in their lives. And astrology would say, well, the bad luck is really is kind of in the chart, but it depends on how you deal with it. And so you can deal with it by saying, "Oh my God, I'm just so unlucky," or you can deal with it by saying, "What can I do? What can I learn so I can correct this?" So this is veering off into, I'm not acting like a guru or a spiritual teacher here. That's not the idea. I'm just trying to explain some elements of karmic theory so that people can understand why a chart functions the way it does. And again, it's not your fault, but knowing the cause of a problem also gives you the tools in order to address it. Is a way to help you be where you want to be. And I believe in using every tool possible, including affirmations, visualization, in addition to remedies. So I think one of the things that is important is for number one, for you to understand there are choices you can make in your life which will make your life less challenging. If you make your life less challenging, there are ways you can actually get what you want. Now, I'm not saying this comes without effort. For some people, it will require a lot of effort. But all the remedies, so typical remedies in Vedic astrology are mantras, which are essentially they're vibrational energies. And they can compensate for weaknesses in the chart. There are colors you can wear, so certain colors are good for certain planets. So I'm wearing a Jupiter color right now. Now my Jupiter isn't particularly weak, but it is challenged a little bit. So sometimes I like to wear yellow just to boost it up a little bit. And so a person would wear, let's say, reds from Mars if they lack courage, bright reds from Mars if they lack courage, dusky reds for the sun if they lack confidence, things like that. But it's important for you also, and again, this isn't to drum up business, although you can contact me for a reading at 508-525-0001. Notice how I put that plug in there. You can't contact me for a reading, but you can contact any competent astrologer for a reading, especially a Vedic astrologer for a reading. And that will help you in terms of identifying what the issues are in your chart, because most astrologers know remedies and can help you with that. But it does take a certain amount of dedication. It does take a belief in yourself. And it also takes, they should be done at certain times and in certain manners. There are some remedies which are very costly. I never recommend those. And the main reason I don't is because I don't think, number one, is sort of my parsimony, but also is because I think a lot, a lot more has to do with your will and your desire to change than with the actual tool for the change. So some remedies will be more powerful than others. Some remedies have to be done in a very precise fashion. And according to it, and as I said before, according to a precise time. But they're available to people. They're actually pretty much open secrets. There are a lot of books on remedial measures. And I think one of the things that I'm going to be focusing much more on in forthcoming videos is sharing some of the knowledge. And I also teach courses in Vedic astrology. I also teach Reiki, but Vedic astrology is essentially my specialization. And I also have knowledge of a variety of other systems uh, of prediction. And if you want to contact me for reading, please do so. 508-525-0001. Also, if you like what I'm doing, share this page with people, share this video with people, share with your friends, and I'm pretty easy to contact. But I would like to grow this page a lot, and I would like to reach more people with Vedic astrology. This has been one of my main goals for the past 30 years. All right, so let's look at the chart for today. So we have a noticeable shift in thinking that happened just recently. And the main reason for that is because we had let me just share the screen. Is because we had let me get this out of the way. Is because we had Mercury leave the presence of Rahu. Now, Rahu is the North Lunar node in Vedic astrology. Rahu is really the primary reason most of us get reincarnated, swinging it back to that topic. It's unfulfilled desires. Rahu wants things, it's very good, actually. It's if a person wants to be famous, having a strong Rahu in the chart is really kind of a superb thing. The three planets I see most often associated with fame tend to be Sun, Moon, and Rahu, the North Lunar node, which essentially eclipses the moon. And and also Sun Ketu combinations. Ketu can also give fame, but it's a little more specialized type. So a person will become well known within a certain occupational area. But basically, and also they'll be criticized, so they won't necessarily get off the hook as easily as a person with Rahu will, because Rahu is, as human beings, I would say we're naturally acquisitive. We have hungers we want to fulfill. Everybody can understand that. With K2, there's almost an effortless connection with people. It's really difficult to explain, but basically you can go up to a person and essentially talk with them like you've known them your entire life, and that'll immediately form this kind of tight connection. I don't want to put my fist in your face. It's kind of like this tight symbiotic relationship with people. But again, like I said, it's not if you're not within that person's context, it'll make it a little bit difficult, or within that circle, it'll make it a little bit difficult, and it's easy to criticize, but it does exist nonetheless, and it's also a little bit uncanny. So you can't even see the basis of the background. With the sun is essentially the king of the zodiac, and the moon is essentially the queen of the zodiac. The moon also corresponds to the masses in Indian astrology, so it's considered to be very, very close to how people think and feel. So people with strong moons are usually really, really popular. They may be considered eccentric, but they're popular. And people with strong suns tend to be leaders. People with strong Rahus can tend to trying to think of a way to put this possibly. They can convince people of their outstanding qualities. So it's not really illusory. They do have outstanding qualities. Rahu is considered to be one of the most intelligent and probably the most powerful planet in or Graha. Is technically not a planet, it's a point in space that moves through the heavens. And she's for tracking eclipses. But it also overwhelms the sun and the moon, so it can overthrow governments, it can cause disruption. It's a very disruptive factor in charts. So if you're looking for the charts of people who are revolutionaries or people who want to change things, you'll find significantly strong Rahus. Whether or not they succeed in changing things long term, there's a tendency for Jupiter to rectify changes to tradition or absorb what Rahu has done into itself and make what was once rebellious mainstream. So I can think about, if I use a musical example, you can think about how rock and roll was once the music of rebellion, and I'm walking around and listening to music from the 60s in supermarkets, which was once the music that our parents hated and was considered to be unplayable on the radio. I'm hearing this played as background in supermarkets running car commercials. So essentially, what was once rebellious will turn around and become unrebellious again. And there'll be something else which will come along, which will take its place, and people will say, "Oh, that's horrible. That's not real music, or that's not real entertainment, or that person doesn't know, or that person's crazy. That politician is crazy. We can never do this." And then all of a sudden, oh, okay, it's part of the mainstream. It gets absorbed. It gets absorbed, or like K2, it gets rejected. Okay. So essentially, if you think about Rahu is accumulation, K2 is the reject that gets pushed out and then goes in a more refined direction. But both nodes are extremely powerful in a Vedic chart. Never underestimate a node. They're just the most powerful things I've ever seen in a birth chart. The other thing excuse me. Let me just see if I can shut this down. My apologies. So the other thing you have to look at in charts is right now. So we have kind of an interesting. So Mercury's giving us more clarity of thought. It's making me talk more. I have to blame something. And there's a Sun-Mercury conjunction, which is really a high intelligence combination right now. It's really, it gives a lot of clear thinking about what you want and how to get there and do that. Now, something else, though, is clouding our emotions just a little bit. And that is we have Venus and Mars in conjunction. So now they're really tight. They're going to be right on top of each other within about a day or two. And the moon is in the same sign with Venus and Mars. So what does that mean? Well, moon and Venus together create kind of a sensual environment. It's actually not Venus's fault, contrary to the opinions of many astrologers, because Venus gives very clear, logical thinking. It's more the moon, because the moon likes the sensual world. There's a curse who was allegedly one of the reasons the moon waxes and wanes was because he was spending too much time with a particular wife, and the other wives got jealous and asked their father to curse him. And so he said, well, yeah, I'm having him, I just gave him an illness and he's dying. And they said, no, we didn't want him gone forever. We just wanted him to spend more time with each of us. So he said, well, I can't reverse the curse, but I can modify it. I can make him grow at certain points in time and decline at certain points in time. So that's where we get that's how Indian astrology explains the waxing and waning moon, so the full and new moons. We've just come out of the new moon, right? So this gives new beginnings. It makes us more enthusiastic about things. It makes us happier about things. So that's good. However, Mars is weak. Okay, Mars is in a stabilization sign. Now, this is one of the things you would take a remedy for if you had a debilitated Mars in your chart, or if you had Mars in the first house where it is right now, or in the eighth house, or in the sixth house. I'm sorry, or in the fourth house, not the sixth house. There are remedies you can use for Mars, Mars affects married life adversely. And it's almost a cliche, but a lot of people have bad relationships mainly because of Mars. So that's one of the things you could take a remedy for, just to give you an idea. And some of them are really simple to do. They're almost stupidly simple. But basically, but they're effective. It's really interesting. But basically, Mars is with Venus. That tends to hyper or heighten sexual energy when Venus is with Mars. Okay, because it's essentially Venus is connected with reproduction. Okay, just flat out. So it's connected with the reproductive cycle. It's the means by which, it's Rahu's teacher, it's the means by which we return to Earth. Okay, reincarnation. So Venus is involved, and even the cycle of Venus around the sky forms like a sort of an abstract star shape. But Venus with Mars gives us weak emotional action. So if we're really interested in a relationship, this will be the time in which we're saying to ourselves, wow, I have to get into that relationship. I have to make some closure. I have to see if it'll work. So again, like I said, just wait a few days. Mars will be in another sign. You'll feel a little bit more independent. I'm not saying you shouldn't listen to your emotions right now. It depends on which major planetary period you're in. And Indian astrology has major planetary periods. So I'm not saying every relationship that starts right now is going to start from a point of weakness. But there is a point in most charts where, in order to be with other people, and this is a significant aspect of Venus as a planet, in order to give up, in order to get certain things, we need to give up certain things. So in order to get one person, you usually have to give up the access to other people, right? So typically, adultery is a condition of divorce, right? So you can't. So not in 100% of the cases, but in a usually significant number of cases. And so I'll never say 100% just because it doesn't, just because there's a possibility that that it that it exists in the real world, that a divorce won't come as a result of adultery. Divorces happen because of money. They happen because of incompatibility. But adultery is a leading form of divorce. It's a leading form of people breaking up with other people. And there are a variety of very human reasons why that happens. One is jealousy, one is loyalty, one is safety. One is the idea that largely in this society we believe in monogamy. And as a matter of fact, it's rare the number of societies that don't practice monogamy. It's sort of an aberrational condition, and so essentially this Venus-Mars combination. Venus requires some kind of a sacrifice. It's and by that I don't mean like an animal sacrifice or anything stupid like that. It means sacrificing yourself to meet the needs of another person, or sacrificing your privacy to be with another person, or sacrificing something to obtain something greater. So Venus is in Cancer, which is the sign of the heart. The moon's in the same sign. It's in a very good nakshatra right now, by the way. It's in Pushya nakshatra, which is considered extremely auspicious for everything but marriage. So this is kind of a warning to people. So if you wait, so that's 23 degrees, Venus is within 1 day of overtaking Mars, then Mars will sort of dominate Venus, because Venus will pass in front of Mars. So there's a variety of schools of thought about whether or not Venus and Mars actually create relationships, or actually who wins in planetary wars. Some authorities always say it's always Venus, because Venus is such a strong entity in the sky. But Mars will precede Venus, and that's also another condition for defeating a planetary war. So relationships which seem good will start to seem pretty rough. And also Saturn is aspecting this entire cluster of planets. So probably better wait if you want to be in a position of control in the relationship, or you want to be in a position where you don't feel weak in the relationship. Probably a little bit better to wait until Venus and Mars are in Leo, which is really within about 2 weeks' time. But that Venus-Mars conjunction will drive a lot of people towards acting on relationship life. Again, if you're getting into a relationship, this doesn't necessarily mean it's marriage. So again, we're not picking marriage dates right now. So this is what Pushya is typically judged as being a difficult lunar mansion for marriage. And the reason for this goes back to the Mahabharata, which is an ancient Indian text. And it was the marriage day for the main character, for the main characters in this text, and it was considered unlucky. It's great for other things. Great, so let's say if you want to form, but I would even rule out for business partnerships, to be honest. but it's great if you want to start learning something. It's great if you want to start exercise. It's great if you want to start a spiritual practice. Is or even constructing a building is super for stuff like that. It's great if, since Mars is debilitated, for demolishing a building. It's a great time for that because Mars rules buildings. But basically, relationship it's mixed, but there'll be a very strong drive for people to get into relationships. And since Saturn's in the seventh house, Saturn forms this kind of a tight contract. But it won't be what I I hate to disappoint the romantics out there, but it won't be what you think. So just a little bit of a wait, maybe about a week, a week and a half. Then if you want to get involved with somebody, it's clear. It's extremely clear. The other thing I'd like to talk about is just in general what's happening in the world. Yeah. I'll try to make this short because I spent so much time in relationships. I didn't intend to. But basically, you have a Sun Mercury conjunction, so actually news is going to come out a little bit more clear-headed now. Not quite so panicky, not quite so nervous. Also more realistic, so we'll probably have more realistic assessments of where the economy is headed, more realistic assessments of where communications is headed. Mars has made countries very edgy lately. Within about a week, you'll start to see countries start to cool down just a little bit, actually in about 10 days. And also within about a week, you'll start to see countries start to develop more patriotic pride, less self-condemnation. I was trying to think of the right word. And Jupiter will also be aspecting Venus and Mars. So again, it's going to be a great time for relationships to blossom, for new business deals. Saturn is aspecting, for a little while, at least, Saturn will be aspecting. It'll start aspecting Sun and Mercury after July 15th. But for at least, so that'll cause some problems to world governments, but it won't be quite as difficult on a personal level as the Saturn aspect is right now. Venus, Mars, and Moon are personal planets. The other thing you want to look out for is, so we're looking at international relations, debt increasing, a lot of countries going into super debt levels over the next, and maybe a lot of fiscal tightening happening after mid-July, mainly because of the Saturn aspect on the Sun. And I think unfortunately that'll mean you'll see suspension or a lot more caution about spending bills and things like that. This won't only be true in the United States; it'll be true universally, throughout the world. The other thing is Mars has caused some water problems lately. Problems with flooding, and that'll go away, but it'll cause more fire damage in Leo. So again, we can expect to see more fires over the next couple of months, and we'll see where those areas are. And also governmental, again, like I said, it's going to be a long hot summer, and we're going to see more governmental interference and more poor people kind of attacking government over the next month or so, between July 15th and August 15th. K2, again, is going to continue the pattern of water damage as well, because K2 is going to be in Scorpio until March of 2022. and it'll move over to air accidents in March of 2022 because of its presence in Libra. So let's look at the world. Jupiter's in Aquarius, more technological innovations, more creative ways of doing things. I think you're going to see a spike in COVID cases, probably between, but again, compared to the earlier spikes, it's not going to be all that significant. But basically because of Jupiter moving back into Capricorn, this will be after mid-August. So please get vaccinated before then. I mean, I'm not trying to trot on anybody's belief systems, but the chances of infection are far less if you get vaccinated. And it's just, so I understand the complications caused by vaccinations. I understand that not everybody takes well to them. But as many of you who have not had adverse reactions to vaccines, please take the vaccine. It's going to lessen the chances of an increased outbreak. So just, it's not Democrat or Republican. It's just like, come on, let's. It to me, it's still a bit of a miracle that we were able to get this approved. I'm not saying it doesn't have risks. I just think the risks are lesser than if you get infected with COVID. Okay, so not criticizing anybody, not if you don't believe as I do, it's your total prerogative, that's your total right. But I don't, but believe me, there's no, and put it this way, more people get vaccinated now, it's less of a chance that we'll need boosters later on. So Pfizer's already putting noise out for that, and a lot of scientists are coming out and saying it's premature. So let's see if we can stop this. So let's look at the global map. Astro mapping, right on. And okay, so this is where, so we have Mars and Venus hitting in Louisiana, the moon in Texas, and let's see now, and the sun on the west coast or near the west coast. Now, this line is a little bit tricky. That's the Ascendant Line, it's the moon line. And essentially, where I'm expecting some trouble, some emotional outbursts, and maybe even some property damage, is in roughly between Louisiana and Arkansas. It looks like right here. Also up through the middle of the United States into the middle of Canada and out towards Alaska. So we can expect some pretty prominent storms out there over the next couple of weeks. We have the descendant running through Washington, D.C., so you'll actually start to see more conservative, more conventional belief systems starting to hit, going to the nation's capital. So to me, that signals fiscal conservatism. I could be wrong. We'll see what happens. Also, if you go down to Central America, it looks like Panama I'm on. and down through Colombia and Peru, and again through Argentina. Argentina has some problems lately. We've all heard them. And Rahu, central Brazil, is having some financial issues, but at least there's more coherence around the government. Well, not around the government, central Brasilia. Brasilia is more around here, if I recall correctly. But basically, the cities will start to come out a little bit more and start to be more lively than they have been over the past few years. And if we're looking at here, this Venus, so we have a Venus, kind of a Saturn line, Venus Mars Saturn line. So essentially, Ecuador, Chile, Peru are going to get hit kind of hard. And again, Argentina. If we're looking at the Hawaiian Islands, it's interesting because it looks like there's a lot of inflationary pressure in the Hawaiian Islands, which makes sense given the current circumstances. So that Rahu Jupiter tends to give inflation. And there'll be a lot of focus on inflation in Washington as well. I think that's going to be the big issue for them. Sun is passing through Iceland. It's not really a negative transit. Still be a little bit fiery. West Coast of the United States, still some potential for some fires, not as bad as last year. And if we're looking at Europe, England has the moon passing through it. So this is hitting London almost exactly, and Paris. So you'll probably see some trouble, some popular protests in both cities, and also in Germany and down through Italy and down through Northern Africa and all the way down through Africa itself. You'll start to see a lot of populist movements of gaining some steam in France, Spain, and even Northern Africa, at least from what I can tell from the map. And this will probably be a trend over the next year or so. This is Ascendant with Rahu in it, and essentially this will give a little bit of a panic in Western, around Finland, down to roughly Romania, Bulgaria, and a little bit in Greece, not as much in Turkey. So again, I think a lot of these countries have high COVID rates right now, but those will be ameliorated by September, and you'll see less fear connected with those. The other thing is you'll see a lot of what I would call experimental approaches, a lot of interest in mysticism in those countries. It's already there, but it'll be more extreme. And also, as you're moving towards, let me see if I can get my picture out of the way. As you're moving towards Saudi Arabia still has problems. Central Asia roughly still has some problems in it. Iran is still in a lot of trouble. I would say in terms of health issues. And India, at least, it looks like the government's starting to take more control. It's starting to take more power. It could get a little bit oppressive though next month. So I'm looking for more government crackdowns in India, not fewer. And in China and Southeast Asia, Vietnam in particular, again, you'll see unrest in the population in Indonesia, but also some good luck for the Philippines. And let's see what's happening in Australia. Australia, again, some panic because of fear of COVID, but also better communications, and they'll be making some progress in Australia. Japan will be in pretty good shape, it looks like from this chart. So Mercury's really the only planet connected with Japan. So they'll actually be experiencing sort of an economic growth spurt. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that China's in a little bit of a disarray right now. It's not, it's definitely not down for the count. I mean, China's going to continue to be an element that's going to be extremely important in the world for years and years to come. But basically, they're trying to increase production. They're trying to move, but their construction projects are being abandoned and are being slowed down, and also they are having some problems with resistance to their expansionary tendencies in Taiwan and other areas. So that's about it. Now, I don't have a lot of time to go through the signs for this week, so let me just give you a quick summary. My apologies for rambling the way I did. All right, so the first sign we're going to look at is Aries. Aries is going to be very emotional this week, have a lot of ambition, have a lot of confidence in himself. But in romantic matters, you should probably wait for just a couple of weeks before you can find true happiness, because it's really lonely right now. And it's kind of making those decisions based upon loneliness rather than rationality. Also, some difficulty or some alienation from relationship partners. But luck is good, hard work, and Jupiter will make it sort of achieve its goals pretty quickly. Taurus has good planets in the second house for the first time in a long time. Still some dissatisfaction with relationship life, but the Sun-Mercury conjunction is really good for financial success for Taurus this month, and this week in particular. And it'll also be very ambitious, but it'll be a little bit overly cautious. So it'll have to be, so it'll have to let go of that fear and do it anyway. K2's in the seventh house, so relationship life is not really a center focus, but its luck will be fantastic, and his career life will be great. Gemini has the Sun and Mercury in the first house. It creates a great personality yoga, so that's good. Venus and Mars are in the second house. So again, it's talking a lot about relationship life, a lot about trying to get together with somebody. But again, if you can wait just a couple of weeks, it'll be a better, a more successful pathway. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. K2, hidden enemies for the sign really until March of next year. After that, that'll lighten up. And also obstructions in relationship life show up in this chart. But overall, good luck. It's doing a lot of teaching lately. Cancer is Venus, Mars, and Moon are in the first house, so it's very, very, very focused on its emotional life. But again, it should be careful, because if it commits to a person, it's going to end up committing for a long time. And it may not be the person. The person will be a little bit controlling or difficult to deal with. K2 will give us kind of detached feelings about children. Jupiter's in the 8th house. It'll acquire a lot of occult or spiritual knowledge or hidden information. It doesn't necessarily have to be occult related. And Rahu is in the 11th house. It'll actually gain a great deal of fame or a great deal of eminence. The fame will actually be followed by money this month, so that'll be a good change for it. And Leo has planets in the 12th house, but also good planets in the 11th house. So it'll spend a lot of money on relationships and on home life, but it'll also have great relationship opportunities, and it will have great career success and good financial gains. Virgo has the Sun and Mercury in the 10th house, great for career life. Venus, Moon, and Mars are in the 11th house, great for career goals, for realizing career goals, and also financial goals. And Saturn's in the 5th, so it's still a little bit unhappy, but and relationship wise, it feels like it could do better. But Jupiter in the 6th house is also causing that. Rahu in the 9th house, unexpected luck from people overseas, so that's good. Libra has no planets in the 7th house, but its 7th lord is debilitated, so that'll make relationship life seem a little bit difficult or tough to bear. K2's in the 2nd house. It'll labor in obscurity, but it'll grow slowly but surely, and it'll impact very strongly on people that it contacts. Saturn's in the 4th house, so there's still some burdens connected with home life and especially with property. Jupiter's in the 5th house, so this gives it a great deal of luck and a great deal of opportunities, which will be very strong. And some will start now and end up in December, and some will start now and end up before August. And Rahu's in the 8th house, so that again, like I said, it's going to give relationship partners who are difficult to please. Sun and Mercury in the 9th house, very good for spiritual luck and spiritual life. And this combination, even though Mars is difficult in the 11th house, good for financial gains. Scorpio has relationship problems pretty much throughout until March of next year, but his confidence levels will increase within a couple of weeks. And Saturn's in his 3rd house, so it's very determined to get what it wants. Jupiter's in the 4th house. It tends to give good home life, good educational opportunities. Rahu's in the 7th house, so business partnerships will seem to be flawed or uneven. And Sun and Mercury, it will give it some attractiveness and some luck in governmental or financial affairs because of this cluster in the 9th house. Sagittarius, Sun and Mercury are in the 7th house, so a lot of intensity connected with relationships. This sign will also look very attractive to a lot of people. Saturn's in the 2nd house. It'll have kind of a pessimistic outlook, though. It'll seem overly serious. Jupiter's in the 3rd house. A lot of emphasis on realizing goals, although some of the goals may be a little bit unrealistic or overly ambitious. It's just kind of clustering too much on your plate at one time, but you'll be able to sort that out pretty soon. And Rahu's in the 6th house, so this sign has to be careful for health issues connected with diet. Relationship life looks good for this sign for once. And essentially, Venus, Moon, Mars in the 8th house will give unexpected earnings from relationship partners. Capricorn's always in charge. He's especially in charge at this particular time. And Jupiter will give it more money. Rahu will give it some problems with children. Sun and Mercury should watch out for digestive issues. A lot of relationship potentials for this sign this month, for like the first time in a long time. And that'll continue really for about 2 months. The other thing is, with this sign, K2 friends seem to be inconsistent or unreliable. Aquarius, Jupiter's in the 1st house, always a good thing. Aspect in the Sun and Mercury, so it'll give a lot of high intelligence to the sign. A lot of expenses, though, because the 1st lord sits in the 12th house. And Rahu is in the 4th house, so it'll make it very dissatisfied with home life. And K2 in the 10th house will make it have some career barriers. Pisces, finally. Pisces, good luck in home life, very ambitious. Children will be a little bit difficult to deal with, but overall not bad. And finally, K2 in the ninth house gives it unexpectedly good luck, and Saturn in the 11th house gives good financial gains with some effort. So that's about it for this week. Again, I would remind you to click the like button, click the notification bell, subscribe, share, and we'll continue with more fascinating conversation about Vedic astrology and and how it impacts you next week. And I'll be posting some other posts during this week. All right, bye-bye, everyone. Namaste. And good luck.